Gail, at this time, I'd like to talk on a very serious question. And it's the question of what I think is facing America. I believe that we're headed toward a one world government. Now, bear me out just for a moment and let me offer some thoughts that people who see my video will take it further and do a little research of their own. Now, at this present time, the whole international community is focused upon trying to find a vaccine that will wipe out the epidemic that's become worldwide. Now, fast forward just a moment. What do you think would happen if suddenly we find a vaccine that would work marvelous? There would be an outcry, a hue and a cry for an international government to be formed and solve all of our problems by way of a scientific approach. Now, let me just hurry on because there's so much to say. I believe as long, and I have to say this, I admire President Trump, and I feel like as long as he's president, there'll never be a one world government. But remember, he'll not always be president. And friends, listen to me. If we find a cure, you're going to find an outcry for the formulation of a one world government. You might say, well, Trump wouldn't let that happen. But remember, he won't always be president. And also, he could change. Now, in line with what I've just said, there is a movement that was very popular a few years ago called Eugenics. And that's what I want to talk about. Eugenics is not talked about nowadays, but to give you some idea of what it's really all about, everyone is familiar with the attempt by Adolf Hitler during World War II, the attempt to try to eradicate the Jewish race and by use of eugenics. And he visualized that he was going to make a perfect world. But as history has proven, he was a big flop. And thankfully, the wise people of the world did not fall in line. And I'm proud to say I was a part of bringing Hitler to his senses in World War II. Now, let me hurry on. Eugenics, I must say, is a modern version of the Tower of Babel, ever how you want to pronounce it. The story of the Tower of Babel has such similarity to events at this present time, it seems appropriate to give some insight of the present day epidemic. What is the meaning of the word eugenics? Having some understanding of this scientific theory, which purports to be a means of changing human behavior, resulting in creating a better world. To give balance then to our conclusion, we find working behind the scenes is the impact of the divine power. And I want to emphasize that God is on his throne and his plans are going to finally be implemented. Thus, Bible believers often clash with the scientific community. And I appreciate what scientists have found out, but as I said, remember the story of Babel. They thought they was going to build a tower to heaven and make contact with God. The story of the Bible reveals that God looked down and saw the imagination of men's heart were constantly evil. Jump ahead hundreds of years, and we see emerging an evil companion called eugenics, whose aim is to create a perfect world. It will never, friends, it will never happen fully until the Prince of Peace comes. The tower story left God out of the picture altogether, and so does the evil theory of eugenics leave out the blessed story of our Savior. For only He can change the human heart. And friends, that is what soul winning is all about. God bless you, and pass the message on. Thank you. Good night.